and how to deal with it and what the idea is. Well, first of all, we have to talk about kings, the Melachim. The kings, Jewish kings, had tremendous power. Tremendous power. We can't even fathom how much power they had and how much responsibility they had. I spoke yesterday here on Shabbat, and I said that one of the laws of a king is to write 2 Sifrei Torah. He has to write 2 Sifrei Torah, 2 books of Torah. One, he carries with him on his personage all the time. Wherever he goes, he's holding a Torah. Another Torah is kept in his palace. He's carrying one, another one is kept in his palace, and he has to write both. I guess if he wasn't able to himself, he could employ a sofer in order to do it, but we're going to assume that the kings were of such elevated status and education, they were able to do it themselves. So, first of all, why does he have to write 2 Sifrei Torah? Why 2 Torot? Why 2 books of the Torah? That's number one. We're supposed to write one. Very, very good. We're supposed to write one. And some say even writing or paying towards writing a Sefer Torah is our mitzvah today, or writing one letter in a Sefer Torah is the tradition, because if even one letter is missing, it's as though the Torah is not written at all. Okay, it's not a Torah, so every letter counts. And some say today that even buying chumashim to be used in a Bet Knesset fulfills that as well. So the various ways we do that. But he has an extra one that only a king has, and that is to write a Sefer Torah that he carries with him. Why would this be? By the way, some say he actually literally carried it with him. Some say that he has an entourage of people who are with him and they carry it. Another opinion is that he used to actually wear it as, like, I guess you would say, a Torah kameah around his neck on a chain. And he would literally walk around with it all the time. Okay? Which presents problems if he wants to use the bathroom, but I guess there's ways to do it. You can wrap it up, or things you could do in order to prevent any problems with that. Why is this? Why does he need 2 Torah? Why does only the king need that? So, one of the Mefarshim says very interestingly, the challenge is that this king has so much power. I mean, let's say he sees a house, and he wants to knock the house down. It belongs to someone, because he wants to build a path, a public path, or a path towards this, or is ruining the view of his path. He could do it, his palace, he could do it. There was a lot of possibility for abuse when it comes to power. Someone says, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely, is a very famous statement. That's why in Jewish history we've had some of those amazing kings, and some of those heinous individuals have taken on kingship among the Jewish people as well. We've seen both sides. So imagine a king is going out, and he starts to see various things happening in his kingdom, and he wants to change something. So it could be that he takes out the Torah that is in his possession, and he erases it, right? And he changes it from one thing to another. It says you can't have too much gold and silver. You know what? I can have a lot of gold and silver. Get rid of the not too much. And he could rub it out. Or he could change any other law that's in his personal possession. But the problem is he's got one back in the palace, and this one is on show, and everyone knows it's there. So an immediate comparison is made between the Torah that the king holds and the one that's in his palace that everybody else has. He has to remind himself that he's being held accountable by every other Torah and all the Jewish people, wherever they are, with the Torah that they have. So it's not just his personal Torah. So why does he carry one at all? If he can't change it, why does he carry one? And the idea is that he's being held accountable 24/7, all the time. I gave the story yesterday of a friend of mine who had to take a Sefer Torah from Eretz Yisrael to New York. And he said he's walking around the airport, Ben Gurion, carrying this Torah, and he started to do things. He started to see non-kosher food. He started to talk to people he shouldn't have spoken to, and started to speak to his mother in a bad tone. And he said that having the Torah changed his entire personality and started to make him behave better. Because when you're holding a Torah, you're like, wow, how can I speak Lashon Hara? Imagine holding a Torah. Imagine walking around Manhattan all day holding a Sefer Torah. Could you speak Lashon Hara? Could you look at things you're not meant to look at? Could you say things you shouldn't say? It's impossible. Just holding a Torah would change your entire perspective, and you would have a constant reminder of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you couldn't act in any negative way. Another thing a king could do, most people do not realize, is go to war. The king has the ability to call for a war. Okay? Why would a king call for war? So there's a few reasons. One reason is to preemptively protect the land of Israel and his subjects. The king has a responsibility to protect his people. Now, if you look in the Torah, in Tanakh, and it comes up again and again and again, the king keeps getting into fights with the prophets. It's kings versus prophets. Always. There are three areas of leadership. You have the king, who's the political leader, the prophet, who's the visionary, and the Kohanim, who are the spiritual leaders. Those are the three groups of leadership that we have in the Torah. And always you see the same thing happening. It's king against the prophets. Why? Because the king is dealing with the day-to-day trials and tribulations that comes with leading the Jewish people and protecting the land of Israel and the Torah and the mitzvot done inside it. The Navi, the prophet, he's like, no, you can't do that because I'm a Navi. I see in the future it's going to lead to bad things happening to our people. So the king is like, who are you to tell me? So a lot of prophets, Jewish prophets, were killed by malachim, by kings. They got into fights, into arguments. They shouted, they gave tochacha, rebuke to each other. It's constantly there because one is dealing with the here and now, and the other is leading to with consequences from action, which sometimes the king wasn't always so cautious about. But there's another job that a king has, and that is to go through various milchamot. One is the milchama, a war of chiyuvit, an obligatory war, like Yoshua had to take out the 7 nations in the land of Canaan, like Mashiach, who's going to be a king, is going to have such a mission of routing negative forces in the land of Israel, unless they turn their ways, which we're seeing there, definitely not. But another form of war, milchama, is a milchemet reshut. This is a war that is voluntary. Why would they go to voluntary war? So the rabbis tell us to actually expand the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael, to make Israel bigger. The Israel you see right now it's like a balloon. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then people fight to make it smaller and bigger and smaller. The Israel you have today is actually very, very small compared to what it was and what it will be when Mashiach comes. It's going to be much, much, much larger, right? North, east, and south. So we're going to see all of that. But why is he allowed to do that? What is the idea of preemptively and voluntarily making the land of Israel larger? So you've got to think of it like this. And it may be hard to understand this concept because it's so alien to us. Because for us, war is just to protect ourselves. But if you understand that the land of Israel is Adamat Kodesh, it's holy. This actually, I read from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Zecher Tzadik Levracha. He said this idea. It's a very novel idea. I'm not sure where he got it from, but he's a very good enough source for this. He says, if you understand the land of Israel is Kadosh, when you say that, you mean every single square meter, every single square foot, every inch is holy. And our job is to bring more Kedusha to the world. That's our job as Jews. Therefore, he says, it's an amazing idea, by increasing the land of Eretz Yisrael, you are increasing Kedusha in the world as well. You now have more holy land in the world, and by doing so, you're actually increasing the amount of Kedusha, he says, in the world. By making Israel. Now, with that comes behaving correctly in the land of Israel and treating people the right way, right? If you don't do what you're meant to do in the land of Israel, it actually makes circumstances worse for us. So it's got to be the right motivation and acting the land the right way. But once you do that, like in the days of Yoshua ben Nun, right? There was 7 years of milchama, and there was 7 years of kibush, of taking care of the land. I'll give you a famous halacha. I told this actually at the table yesterday. We had guests at the table yesterday, and we were talking about, people buying places in Eretz Yisrael, right? Which is highly recommended. I've said it before many, many times. And I pointed out that there's an organization that buys homes from Arabs that want to sell their homes. They want to sell them, but they're terrified to do it because other Arabs come along and start to hurt them and kill them, right? So I said that there was a circumstance they had where they were able to get a house in one moment on Shabbat. Are you allowed to break Shabbat in order to buy a house in Eretz Yisrael? Absolutely. It is a mitzvah. You are allowed. You have to get a non-Jew to sign the documents and pay for it, to take care of all the financial transactions. But in order to buy a place, and this is halacha, in Eretz Yisrael, you're allowed to do that and be machal al Shabbat by asking someone who's not Jewish to do the signing and to deal with all the financial consequences. And there was a story with this organization. I won't name it. There's an organization that takes care of this. And they had a situation scenario. And they even got reshut from the Rabbanut to have this buyer. And they organized a car. And they got, it's going to sound crazy, I know. That is how incredible the mitzvah of having land in Eretz Yisrael owned by, that's our homeland, owned by Jews, because every square inch that we own that's under our control becomes kadosh. And the larger the land, says the Babish Rebbe, there is more kedusha. It's a very novel idea. But B'ezrat Hashem, we'll see the land of Israel much larger, and our homeland will be exclusively in our hands with no more war. B'ezrat Hashem. Have a good day. Zav Yamat.